Hello, and welcome to this new episode of Love, Life, and Energy. I'm your host, Michelle Chung. I just want to share a little bit about my story, how I manifested my soulmate in just 90 days. And I'm going to go step by step exactly how I manifested him, what were the steps I actually did, and how you can actually replicate this yourself. So, if you're interested in meeting somebody, meeting your soulmate, finding your ideal partner, and it's been a while, you've been trying everything, you're going to love this episode. And so, definitely check it out. Hey, my name is Michelle Chung, and I'm a live manifestation expert, which means I help women manifest their soulmate live in person, offline. And I help career-driven, A-type alpha women find their man so they can have the amazing, committed, and effortless relationship they deserve. So I guess the first point of my story is when I actually got divorced. So when I was in my mid 30s, well, early mid 30s, I had a bit of a life crisis, I would say. It was a point in my life where actually everything was going really well for me. I had a great job, I had a great partner, I was in a great marriage, actually. Life was good, had amazing friends. Everything was great. I was in Sydney and I was training martial arts, and I just loved this martial arts. It was actually a capoeira, Brazilian street fighting martial arts. It was very much in my masculine phase of my life, but I just really enjoyed training, and it was such a great. I'd been doing it for quite a few years, and it was just such an amazing form of exercise. But what happened was I started to get injured, and I did acupuncture, and it did something, but eventually, after I kept going back to acupuncture, it didn't work out anymore. And I was like, why am I not healing? What's happening? And why is my injury getting worse? And so I I was in agony. I had sciatic pain. I had nerve pain down both legs. So much that I couldn't walk, actually. So I actually had to stay at home, lie on the floor, and I'd wake up in pain in the middle of the night as well. So it was really just not a pleasant experience. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And it was upon a time where my health was starting to become a focus, because it's like if you don't have your health, you can't do anything, right? And I was fortunate to be in a great relationship, but this injury became kind of like a wake up call to change my life. So what I did, I really wanted to heal myself. So I knew that I didn't want to have surgery on my back. One surgeon said that I should take out two of my vertebrae in my back, and I was like, I think 31 or 32 at the time. So it really felt like that was definitely not a solution. I knew I could heal myself. I knew there was a better way. And so I studied kinesiology and mind body medicine at the College of Complementary Medicine in Sydney. And through that process of studying and learning about energetic medicine, Chinese medicine, meridian points, chakra system, and Ayurvedic medicine, I realized that everything happens to us externally actually comes and originates from internally. So from your mind, from your thoughts, from how you're feeling. And at this point in my life, I was fairly unconscious, even though I'd started doing personal development with Landmark prior to that, a couple of years before that, that I had that injury. But it wasn't until I did that course in 2014 that I had this massive wake up call, and I realized I can't be in my marriage anymore. Now, my marriage was great, and all my friends were like, "Oh, why are you splitting up? We believed in you the most out of all the couples that would have stayed together. We believed in you guys." And with that on my shoulders, I was like, I just have to follow my intuition. This is what was guiding me. And of course, it was upsetting for both of us, and it wasn't ideal, but for me, it was something I really had to do. So when we got divorced, I realized I had never dated before. I didn't know what it was like to go dating. And, the world had changed in such a short period of time, so fast. All of a sudden, there was all these online dating apps. Our mobile phones were constantly stuck to our hands. And when I was growing up in the 90s, we didn't have phones. Like, I didn't have my first mobile phone until like I was like, I don't know, 19, and even that got stolen. So it was this whole digital age, and dating was a thing. It's a thing you do online. And so after I got divorced, I realized, okay, I'm going to go check this out. I'm going to try Tinder. I'm going to try Bumble and all those other dating apps out there. And I just kept trying and trying. I met some great guys and I met not so great guys. And I realized that the more dates that I went on didn't necessarily mean that I had a better result, that I actually met better guys. I actually thought it was a numbers game. Like the more dates that you went on, then at least one of them has to be the right one, right? So it was like trial and error process. And you know what? That's actually really exhausting. And I think when you get into your 30s and your 40s or 50s, you're a bit over meeting new people, especially if you've been single for a while and you've been trying to date and you've been trying to meet great people, great guys, and not finding anyone. It is so frustrating. So I completely understand. And so what happened was, I guess, through this process of studying kinesiology, mind body medicine, and learning and uncovering my own consciousness, I started to understand this something I'm not doing or that I'm doing that is getting in the way. And I had to change myself, and not only change myself, but to change my environment. So with that, I actually followed my intuition. And that's probably been one of the greatest gifts that I've been blessed with. And we all have this, but I intuitively followed my intuition, if you can say that. But basically, someone had said, I'd actually seen an ad to travel the world with your remote work, and I was very fortunate as a designer. I could travel and have all my files online. It was at that period where everything was starting to get on saved onto the cloud, so you didn't have to be in a work office to work. And I thought, I'm going to travel the world. So for 12 months, I went to 12 different cities with remote year, and I had such a great time. And deep down, I was doing that because I was searching for my next partner. I was searching for my soulmate. And in every city, I would use Tinder and dating apps to find someone there, and was thinking, maybe in this country, if I meet somebody, then I'll move there. That was in the back of my mind. And this went on for the 12 months, and still, like, I'd had a couple of great guys that I'd met, but no one that was really it. Just things happened where it just didn't work out. And so I came back to Sydney after that in, I think, 2018. And I just I just didn't know what to do next. But then somebody said something like, oh, Barcelona is a great city, and they have a digital nomad visa. So I thought, okay. And my intuition said, check it out. So I've been following my intuition again, and it said, go to Spain. So I'm like, okay. I didn't speak the language. I didn't speak any Spanish at all. I'd only learned a little bit from my trips with the remote year in the 12 cities. We'd spent half our time in Latin American cities and also in Spain. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go do it. I've always wanted to live abroad. I never did that in my 20s, as most of the Aussies go off to London in your 20s to do your gap year or stay there a couple of years to work. I never did that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go do that in my 30s. Bit late, but better late than never, right? And I went there and I was really living my best life. I had such an amazing time. I moved there in 2019. I actually nearly didn't because that doubt, that fear, all that came back in. And the process to get to the visa wasn't an easy process. There's a lot of documentation. I thought it would just be easy just to get a visa for a couple of months or a year, but it was not easy. Anyway, managed to get through it and fought through that fear and indecision and went, I'm going. So I ended up going there in 2019. I was living my best life. I again, intuition, met somebody who was studying at an art school, and I thought, I'm going to study art. It's something I've been always very good at. It's a hidden talent of mine, and I've never pursued it. It was just something that I always thought I would never make any money, that would never be fulfilling for me, even though I have a very good talent for it. But I went and off and studied it, and I thought, okay, well, maybe this is going to be my new life. This is what I'm going to be doing next. Then in 2020, as we all know, that's when COVID hit, the lockdown. We had a very severe lockdown in Spain in March, mid-March, and I was actually dating a local Spanish guy who was really lovely, but we both knew there was no future together. And even though we were dating and we were having great fun, in the back of my mind, I always thought, he's a great guy, but not for me. He'd be great for some other woman, right? But he did invite me to stay with him during the lockdown, and we had a great time. But what I thought was just a weekend ended up being 2 months, 24/7 being together. And it was like, luckily we got along together well. And he was also an artist. And we had a great time being creative, spending our time doing art projects and painting and drawing. But again, it was my intuition that kind of said, there was actually an email that came in from my real estate agent. So that's another one of my passions is property investing in real estate, in residential real estate. And a webinar came in, and before COVID, I think those webinars weren't really that popular, but there was something online, and I was like, oh, I really don't like these online things, but something inside me, my intuition said, go do it. Go listen to that webinar. So I did. And it ended up being this lady who was fascinating for me. I wanted to know all about her. I thought she was very intelligent and very conscious. She had a nice way about her. So I said, what else do you do? And she turned out to be a life coach. So I was like, wow, this is a great coincidence, from listening to my intuition to get on this webinar. Look what happened. I meet this great life coach. So I hired her immediately. And I also started listening to business podcasts, started hiring other business mentors and things like that. And what I realized was that I really needed help. I couldn't do this alone. What I thought was that, all you have to do is get on the dating apps. Why should I learn from somebody about relationships? Like, no one does that, right? Unless you go to a relationship counselor or a therapist. Who thought to have help when it comes to finding love? It doesn't seem like a very intuitive thing, or it's not really a done thing in our society, is it? And what I learned from the life coaching and the business coaching was that I was not looking for a permanent partner. I was just blindly out there, throwing myself out there on these apps, trying to find somebody. And it wasn't a very strategic approach in meeting somebody. And no one ever thinks about this kind of stuff when you're trying to find someone, right? You just want to find somebody as quickly as possible. You don't think about this stuff. And so what I realized was I was not meeting somebody based on my core values, on those foundational things that actually make relationships really powerful and long lasting. I was just trying to find somebody suitable who matched my criteria of, it's got to be good looking, it's got a great job, it's got to be funny and kind, and all those usual things that women go for, right? And during that period of time as well, I realized I wanted to build a community. I wanted to follow my passions. I wanted to fulfill my potential. And that's one of the reasons why I left my marriage, was because I felt like I couldn't reach my potential within the marriage. And so when I started coaching with my life coach, then I was also inspired to start a meetup group based on my core values. So I'd seen a lot of meetups based on, let's go out for drinks, new people in town, let's get together, let's go hiking, let's go to, sailing activities. And what I realized was missing, and actually I'd been to one meetup group, but it didn't seem like it was very well organized or advertised, meetup group on personal growth or spirituality. And I thought, that's really interesting. I want to do something like that. And so I started a book club on personal growth and spirituality. And it was a very unique approach, because you didn't have to read the same kind of book, but I made it so that people could be welcome to come in. They could introduce a book that they liked, and then they could simply share about it. So it wasn't very strict. It was more about having great quality, deep conversations without alcohol, without that kind of frivolous networking, and I'd actually banned three things that you could ask. I've made sure that you didn't ask about what do you do, where do you come from, where do you something else. Those usual questions that we always ask each other when we meet somebody, and they get kind of boring because they don't really get to who we really are, right? You start to measure people based on where they live and where they come from and what they do, right? So that was another one of the rules from the book club that made it super, super popular. And this book club got so popular that we had like a waiting list of people who wanted to come in. And remember, this was during COVID times as well in 2020. And people were just craving connection with each other. People just wanted to meet new people. People sick of being at home, but we had to do the social distancing and things like that as well. And since I started that book club, I was getting really amazing new friends coming in. I was making great connections. Other people were making great connections with each other. Other people were meeting their partners and things like that in my book club. And it was such an amazing experience that I could share, and that I was the one who started all this, right? And then I started learning about manifestation, and I learned how to do it properly, what it actually means, the steps of how you could do it, how you could visualize, how you could do all this kind of stuff. And I was starting to put together my own kind of system using some of the stuff I'd done with my life coach as well. And so I ended up doing a manifestation in January. I started my book club in August. And in January, end of January, I think, I had done this manifestation, and I just said it and I'd forget it and I just let go, as you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to like worry about it or think about it or repeat it every day. That's not meant to be what manifestation is about. And so at the end of January, I did this manifestation and I was like, there you go. I'm just going to set it, forget it, and just leave it. Let the universe do its job and let the universe deliver someone special to me. And I kind of forgot about it. And then in February 2021, I actually got COVID, and it was my 40th birthday. The day after my birthday party, I just felt really tired and I felt really sick. And I didn't realize I'd gotten COVID. And that was 3 weeks of being alone on my own in my apartment. Luckily, I'd manifested a really nice place for myself. So I wasn't like trapped in some place that I didn't like. But I had to stay at home for 3 weeks. And during that 3 weeks, I asked my friend to host my book club for me. And he said, oh, hey, there's this amazing guy who came in. He's also a coach. He's really keen to meet you, the founder of the book club. He wants to get to know you. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because as the founder of any events, as the host, you're naturally the one that people look up to, because you put people together. You created this space for facilitating and bringing amazing people together. So you naturally have kind of like this status within the group as the founder and the organizer of the group. And so I said to my friend, yeah, sure. When I feel better, I'll come back and host my group, and I'd love to meet him. And when I came back to my book club, there he was. I saw him. We were hosting the book club on the beach. We had to be outdoors because of the COVID restrictions. But when I saw him, he was kind of lying on his elbow in the sand, and he had his motorbike jacket on, and it looked really cool, very attractive. And I was like, he's the one. He's the one that I manifested. I'd imagined him in my manifestation in January. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the one. I was excited, but I was also very calm, because I just knew that he was the one that was meant to be for me. And when we did meet and we started talking, and we continued our conversation after the meetup as well. We all had lunch together, and he came sat next to me, and we were chatting, and we spent the rest of the day together, and we met up with other friends later in the evening. And because he lived a bit further away, and then I said, do you want to come and, hang out at my place? We'd have a drink, and then we can meet all our friends later on. And we just talked nonstop. We talked about our values. We talked about all these deep and amazing topics, because we'd just been to a book club on personal growth and spirituality. So it was perfect. And we both knew what we wanted. We both wanted to have kids. We wanted to have a stable relationship. And then pretty much he wanted to see me again. And I, of course I had, my things that I was doing. I was doing dance classes and going to the gym and things like that. But he offered to give me a ride from my place to the dance class that I was doing later on that week. And then he invited me to a picnic on the weekend. So that's rough. And pretty much that's, we've been together ever since. And from that first moment, we decided to buy a car together within about 6 weeks. We wanted to travel the south of Spain. So we did a road trip for 3 weeks. As soon as we could leave our town during the lockdown, we traveled down south, and he ended up moving into my place in July. So as you can see, things can happen really quickly when all the things align. And what I mean by all the things align is all those internal things, all that work that you've done to find your core values, to discover what you're resisting, those emotional and mental blocks. Once you've discovered all those things, then everything aligns. The universe comes together and says, okay, you're really ready to receive your soulmate, and we're going to manifest him for you. And that's really how it works. So I'd love for you to meet your partner, manifest your partner as well. I've actually created a webinar that you can understand and learn exactly how, step by step, how I manifested my partner as well, and the 3 phases that you have to go through to do that internal work so that you can be in the right vibration to manifest your soulmate and have him come into your life really easily, sometimes within 3 to 6 months. And just like my students have done as well, I've had amazing success stories where one of my students has gotten engaged, and within like about 8 months of meeting her soulmate, and she also did those same steps. She also followed her intuition and created a space. She changed her environment. She changed from the inside. She worked on herself. And all these things manifested really easily for her. So if you want to learn exactly how I manifested my partner, then you can go ahead and watch that free training. It's a webinar that you can register, and the link is just there below. So go ahead and click on that and register. You can watch it straight away. And yeah, I'd love to hear more about what you're going through as well. If you have any questions, make sure you DM me on my Instagram at Michelle Chung Coach. And I look forward to hanging out with you. So yeah, definitely got more episodes coming up soon. I'll see you later.